Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter. This is the show where I sit here and regale you with all the tabletop gaming stories and remember when something cool happened. So we return to the Labyrinth campaign, in which everybody sentenced to death is given one more chance to get a clean slate and a real new lot in life if they can escape the deadly labyrinth run by Bellosi, the elven gentleman who has stacked the deck against them. So, there are 100 prisoners, and about 90% of them are already dead. Our heroes found a magic puzzle box that sucked them inside and shrank them down into a pocket dimension, in which they are now standing at the entrance of the Tomb of Horrors. And yes, the Tomb of Horrors back during the 3.5 era was borderline unfair. It was set on subtlety and instant death traps and things that players were usually just not prepared for. But I wanted to see how far I could push these people before their party either died or they gave up, because that was the douchey kind of DM that I was at the time. So they are outside of the labyrinth. They are elsewhere. They can see the sky, and they don't really know where they are. Vince, their assassin, opened the puzzle box, and, it brought them to this new and unusual place. So they have no idea where they are, and I knew for a fact that none of them knew what the Tomb of Horrors was, so I could dick with them while they were doing this campaign. Now, clearly, this was not a part of the labyrinth because they were standing on a great land mass, and behind them was a sheer cliff down into oblivion, and ahead of them were two cave entrances. Now, I'm going to go ahead and apologize because I have all these notes that I'm going to need to refer to. I lost my big 26-page summary thing, but I've been watching, or reading, rather, old Tomb of Horrors, like journals and things like that, trying to remember what all went on in there, because I tweaked it around and I moved stuff to fit the context of the labyrinth, but by and large it remained about the same. So they go in, and the initial hallway of the Tomb of Horrors is like a Mayan temple. It's all mosaic, and it's got hieroglyphs up and down the walls. At the far end is a great stone gargoyle head with its mouth open and an abysmal blackness deep inside. And our heroes kind of look around and they go, okay, we're going to have to be extra careful, because if we've gone into a pocket dimension, what does the puzzle box contain? Maybe if we solve this dungeon, it'll give us like a rare magic item or some reward or some advantage that'll help us out in the labyrinth. Because if it's a dungeon within a dungeon, surely this is, something small that'll challenge us for a few rooms and then we'll get a reward, That sounds like something that this small container could have. Little did they know. But off to one side was a door with a barred window, and straight ahead of them was this big stone mouth. And they wander forward for a bit, and they go, okay, we got to be super careful. And of course, Furious Ming is the first one, up ahead, because he was basically their dexterity tank. Just like dodging blows instead of taking them. So he was usually their front man, wandering forward, and his foot touches the wrong panel, and it springs a pit trap open, and he almost falls in, but he's a monk, so he somersaults forward as 4 panels or 4 tiles worth of 10-foot drop into spikes opens, and they use a rope and they navigate across. And, he trips like pit trap after pit trap. This hallway has like 4 pit traps in it. Like they just run into them one after the other, until they get to the very end of the hallway. They want to examine that gargoyle head first. And it reaches floor to ceiling. It's pretty big. And it's gaping mouth, and they peer inside and they can't see anything. And they go, we'll throw like a rope or something in there. And they take out a rope and they toss like the grappling hook in, and it immediately sucks it in like a child with spaghetti, and the rope is instantly gone. I said, if you hold onto that rope, it's going to pull you in. We let go, and it sucks up the rope, and it's gone. And they go, huh. So they take like a hat rack they were using as a bow staff, and they stick it in there. It sucks that in too, and it's gone. And Liner's like, I'm not scared. I'm a dragon. I climb in there. And Liner climbs into the gargoyle's mouth and is gone. Now, the contents of this mouth, because they could not see inside, were completely black. It was like looking into a black hole or into just an infinite blackness. Inside this gargoyle's mouth was a sphere of annihilation. So Liner just wandered into his doom. A sphere of annihilation is basically a black hole, except it doesn't suffer like gravity wells and collapsing realities and stuff. It's a sphere. It can be any size. This one was probably about the size of a beach ball. It's a sphere of darkness that when you touch it, or anything touches it, it immediately gets sucked in and erased from existence. You don't die, your soul doesn't go to heaven or hell, you don't feel any pain, you are just sucked in and you're gone. It's outside reality. You have no feeling, your consciousness spaghettifies, all that good stuff. Liner climbed into that gargoyle's mouth and ran into a sphere of annihilation. And I couldn't say what happened to him. It's like, where do I end up? I was like, let's hold on that, Liner, because I can't say he died, because he didn't die. He was erased. And the only time you hear the word annihilation in D&D is like spheres of annihilation, black orbs, which are basically spheres of annihilation that can think and move, and then like the weapons that gods carry around. Like I think the god of dwarves has like an axe of annihilation, and he just has to hit you with it once, and it erases you from existence. So it's worse than death, because it takes your soul with it. So the only way to escape or be pulled out of a sphere of annihilation is by the direct intervention of a god. So your chances are pretty damn slim. So Liner is erased from existence. They're like, you know what? We didn't see what happened to him. We're going to not climb in there with him. And I was just waiting. I was waiting for all four of them to climb in and be like, well, game's over. Sorry, you all climbed into a sphere of annihilation. So you were erased from existence. But no, only Liner went. And when they didn't know where he ended up, they thought twice about it. So then Vince, our assassin, decides he's going to try the door instead. There's lots of hieroglyphs and little crawling spaces to one side, but they don't know where they're going. Furious Ming leans down and he looks through the passages and stuff. He crawls around in there for a while, but it's basically just like a little maze that goes nowhere. So they decide to try the door with bars. And Vince decides to open the door, or unlock it and then open it, because he's the rogue of the party, without looking through the window. And that cost him, because it's the Tomb of Horrors. He pulls the door open, and he is immediately pounced upon by a four-armed mutant gargoyle that grabs him by one shoulder, does damage, grabs him by the other shoulder, does damage, and then tears him limb from limb. And he dies instantly. And the guy playing Vince was the guy who played Soon Dead. God damn it, T, you killed me twice in one hit. What the hell? And I go, it's a mutant gargoyle. That's his special ability. If both of his claw attacks hit, he gets to roll like an extra 3d8 or an extra 4d8 or whatever it happened to be, plus this much more damage. So, unless you're a monk and you can out-grapple him, he's going to tear your ass in half. And I go, this is just the stat block, man. I can't say I didn't put him there, because I did. That's just where he is in the module. But you didn't look through the window. There's a window, you would have seen him standing there waiting. But that's actually one of the strange things about the Tomb of Horrors, is that there's very subtle hints about where all the traps are, where all the monsters are. If you stop and look at everything, your DM has to tell you all the hints. Well, no, he unlocked the door, pulled it open, got torn apart instantly. And, Zalus and Ming, oh my god! And, suddenly there are only 2 party members left, and they're still in the first hallway. That's how bad the Tomb of Horrors is. They haven't even gotten to the second room. Liner's been annihilated, and Vince gets torn limb from limb by the first monster and thrown off into one of the spike pits. And this thing emerges out into the hallway. It's like Goro from freaking Mortal Kombat. He's got the big 4 burly arms, with flexing talons covered with blood and gore, and like licks one of its freaking talons. Like, oh my god. What do we do now? Ming, you're up. You're the tank. And so Ming runs in there, fists a flying. Zalus is like, I've got the lightning bolt. Boom! Throws the lightning bolt, and they tangle with this thing in a very small space. It's just it's a 10-foot wide hallway covered with pit traps, so if somebody gets picked up and thrown, that's going to be the end of them, because these pit traps are like 8d8, 10-foot falls full of spikes and poison-tipped bullshit, because it's the Tomb of Horrors. So falling into a pit trap will probably spell your demise, and they're fighting this thing on the precipice of 2 different pit traps, so either way they go spells their death. Unless you can make a 10-foot jump from a standstill, which even for a monk would be hard to do. So it's basically like a boss fight in the first freaking room. Of course, Zalus goes up, he's like, Phantasmal Killer! And the gargoyle rolls out of it, so he doesn't instantly die. And Ming is fighting him, just punching him in the face as much as he can. He's taking claw damage, he's bleeding down his bare chest because he's a monk and he's only got pants. And doesn't have any real super weapons, because monks don't use a whole lot of weapons or armor. So they're fighting back and forth. And then the gargoyle tries for its 2-clawed attack to tear Ming apart. And they land... Ming lands the grapple dead even. So it was like 27 and 27, and when numbers match, the defender wins. So Ming has 2 hands in this hand and 2 hands in this hand, and he's fighting with this 4-armed gargoyle. And I go, okay, give me a I forgot. Give me a fortitude save, to keep your footing. Give me a fortitude save. And he fails it, and they go tumbling over into the pit trap, and I go, Ming, you're gonna die. And I try to think, he can't take 8d8 damage. I killed Vince. I can't kill them all straight away. I've got to make this a little more fair. And I go, you're locked in a grapple as you fall into this pit trap. So it's either going to be Gargoyle down or Ming down to take the brunt of the damage. So flip a coin and see which one of you lands, with your back in the spikes. And, far be it from me to ever do that again, because deciding if a character lives or dies on a coin flip is not fair. But he flips the coin, gargoyle face down. And Ming is on top of him. The spikes erupt through this monster's chest and belly and prod him in the chest, and he takes some serious damage, but he doesn't take 8d8 spike damage, so he's got a pad between him and the death that's below him. And Zalus is like, oh god, I might be all by myself. And he leans over, he's like, Ming, are you still alive? And Ming's like, yes. And he backflips out. Super cool, because he's a monk. He's bleeding down the chest from claw attacks and landing on that spike. And he has to roll the fortitude to resist the poison that would have made him limp and fall onto the spike trap even further. And he makes that. And he chugs a couple of potions to rub the blood off of himself to watch his wounds close. And he and Zalus look back and forth Liner's gone. Vince is in pieces. We're kind of fucked. We got into the hallway, and it's well, what do we do? And Zalus goes, well, we need to see what happened to Liner. So they go all the way down the hall, hopping across pit traps as they go. And Zalus is like, well, clearly this is magical. I'm going to see if I can, if I've got like knowledge arcana or use magic device or anything, if I can figure out just what this is without touching it. And it's a good thing he said without touching it, because as soon as he examined it with his hands, he would have been sucked in. And there's no escaping a sphere of annihilation once it has a hold of you. So even if Ming pulled him back, he would have lost his hands to the wrist. But he rolls really high, like freakishly high, which is, I think he put a bunch of points in knowledge arcana so he could study spells better, so he could identify magic if it got thrown at him. They ran into other people that had spell books, so he had like a short stack of spell books he was studying. He wanted to make sure he had the knowledge to take everything in. And I go, well, Zalus, this is a gargoyle's head that is imbued with a sphere of annihilation. And Zalus goes, oh. And Ming goes, what? What is it? And he goes, Liner has been annihilated. And he goes, what does that mean? And Zalus launches into the scholarly lecture of what a sphere of annihilation is. It's a black hole, basically. And he goes, the only way to get out is by the direct intervention of a god. And everybody at the table is glaring at me because they don't think this is fair. And it's not, because it's the Tomb of Horrors. Vince at least fell to catastrophic damage, but that's the roll of the dice. A sphere of annihilation is not fair at all, especially if you can't see it. So they, Zalus and Ming actually argue me down because I was ready for Liner to be gone. He wandered into the sphere of annihilation. I couldn't really do anything about it. And he goes, they go, Liner was the only one who was innocent out of this group, right? He was falsely accused. It's not really fair for him to meet such an untimely demise to something as unfair as a sphere of annihilation, don't you think? Doesn't Bahamut watch over his flock? And they argue with me for a while. And yeah, you're basically right, because I know Vince is going to be really upset because I one-shotted him, and then I'm bringing this other person back, and I gave Ming the chance to not die with the coin flip, so he's mad, but I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Bahamut smiles upon you, dear Liner, in your clerical ways and your loyalty to his religion. And using his godlike willpower, launches you from the sphere of annihilation out of the gargoyle's mouth and straight into Ming's chest. You both fall back into the pit. And Ming goes, shit! And he rolls the reflex, and he lands with like the pads of his feet between two spikes, and there's like one spike that's ready to go up his butt, but he's holding Liner like a dog, just like doing the splits between two spikes. He's like, gotcha! So he throws Liner up into Zalus's arms, and does like the super cool monk backflip to jump out of the pit again. He's like, okay, we got Liner back. We lost Vince, damn it. And I can already see that Vince's player is rooting around in his backpack again. We're like 2 or 3 sessions in right now. And I go, did you make another character sheet? And he goes, yeah, you already killed me in one hit once. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen again, because I always die in your games, Tony. And I go, yeah, you had a window. I said there was a door with a barred window. You opened it without looking. That's your own damn fault. And there's glaring back and forth. But he's got another character sheet. And I go, okay, we'll shoehorn him in just like we did Vince. And so Ming and Zalus and Liner loot Vince's body because he's got a couple of magic items and a couple of potions and some food and water, etc., etc. So they pillage another body and they throw it off the precipice outside. And they're like, okay, we went into one hallway and we lost half of our party. We got our asses handed to us and we almost died twice. Just like a total party wipeout in the first hallway. They didn't, they opened the door and they killed the gargoyle. They didn't even go into the next room. Like, this place is fucking dangerous. We need to leave. So they grab the puzzle box again. And Zalus, with his knowledge arcana, determines, this is a key. It will take us other places. It's not so much a container as it is a means of travel. So when Vince was using it, perhaps he was just worried about escaping the labyrinth and, being not very specific about it. So it took us to this horrible place. And like, well, can we use it to escape the labyrinth? And they look at me and I go, no, you're not going to circumvent the whole campaign. It might be able to take you back to the labyrinth itself, though. They go, yes, good, that's better than here. So Zalus sits for a minute and he quiets so I can concentrate. And, he pulls out a couple of his spell books and he compares notes for magic objects that allow dimensional travel. And I give him like the +3 because he's got like 6 books with him. And he rolls really high and he adds knowledge arcana and it synergizes with use magic device. And they open a portal just out of like the bedrock that's next to them. They open a portal that leads back to the labyrinth. And they're like, yes, safety, which is weird to say considering. And they pile back into the labyrinth and it shuts behind them and the cracks disappear. And behind them is just the brick and mortar of the labyrinth wall. And they go, oh God, that was fucking awful. Let's never go there again. And they decide that they need to rest because, Furious Ming took a bunch of damage, Zalus burned a bunch of spells, Liner got annihilated and then unannihilated. It's nap time. So Liner decides that he's going to take first watch and he takes the puzzle box back from Zalus. And so the guys try to get some rest. Liner's just kind of sitting there, fiddling with it in his hands, not really paying attention, while they're trying to get some rest. And while the guys are sleeping, Liner kind of goes into a trance. A sort of thing where the magical item that he's holding, this puzzle box, is far too powerful for his little claws to be handling like Zalus did, because he doesn't have a lot in the ways of use magic device or knowledge arcana. So all the little turnstiles and cranks and clicky bits and buttons that are all over this cube-shaped thing, his hands just kind of wander, and he like rests his eyes for a moment while his hands keep moving, just kind of fiddling with it like a fidget cube. Have you ever seen those fidget cubes? It's got like buttons on one side and on and off clickers on one side and a rolly ball on another side. It's for people with idle hands. You can get them as like keychains and stuff. Fidget cubes are a lot of fun. But he plays with it while he's basically dozing off. And that's not good when you're handling magic items. So he accidentally solves it while he's in a trance or while he's not really thinking about anything. And the wall opens up again while the guys are asleep, and Liner just kind of sleepwalks away because the puzzle box is taking him somewhere, but he wasn't thinking about any place, so it took him nowhere. He ends up in this like endless void sort of place, standing on a platform with 3 mysterious figures. And as you can probably imagine, it is the Cenobites from the Hellraiser series. So Pinhead, Chatterer, and the Smoker. And for those of you that don't know what Cenobites are, there's Cenobites in the in one of the monster manuals somewhere. I couldn't track them down even though I went looking, but I think I statted them as like flesh golems at the time, but that's neither here nor there. A Cenobite, and I'm going to butcher these terms, a Cenobite, the best I can explain it, is somebody who went to hell, who was tortured by demons or any other denizens that are there, to the point where they basically begin to enjoy it and crave it, and they become like these horrible, twisted BDSM figures with deformed faces, and some of them have missing limbs, and they gain psionic powers to move chains and sharp objects with their minds. And they set off through different doorways to torment and lure innocent souls to hell for them to torture to create more Cenobites. And they have a real twisted philosophy on pain is pleasure, pleasure is pain, and you know nothing of hell because you haven't experienced it for yourself. Here, let me strap you to this table and use a dentist drill on your forehead for the next 50 years in hell and stuff like that. They're pretty twisted figures. But there are 3 of them, and they're standing there to talk with Liner after he stumbles upon their nether realm that is attached to the labyrinth. Liner kind of comes to after a while. He's like, where am I? And he looks behind him, and he can see his friends sleeping on the floor beyond the cracks in the wall. And he's like, the box was opened, so we have arrived. What do you want? Because when you open a Cenobite's puzzle box, they will usually come and kill you, but curiosity killed the cat and satisfaction brought it back. So they want to know why this baby dragon with clerical powers was playing with a demonic artifact. And he goes, I am a falsely accused prisoner of the Labyrinth. Do you know how to get out? And he goes straight for it. Do you know how to get out of the Labyrinth? Who are you who does not know that the Labyrinth has no borders? And he goes, oh, shit. Which at the very least means that the Labyrinth is a pocket dimension. Or a sphere, for that matter. Just a very large sphere. And they go, oh, good. There's no normal exit. So the map that they picked up at some point is completely arbitrary and useless. So they can throw that away. Because if the Labyrinth is infinite, then so would the map be. So Liner tries to get details out of them, but the gist that he learns is that the Labyrinth is infinite. Bellosi is just toying with people until they die. There are no winners, ever. Nobody's slate ever gets wiped clean. Nobody ever walks out, because there's nowhere to walk out to. Now, the puzzle boxes, are supposed to take you to a sort of finish line area. And every group gets one because Bellosi passes out those treasure chests if you get good ratings, if you get good, if the audience watches you more than anybody else, he drops you with supply chests and things like that, or you stumble across them if other groups are carrying, and then you solve the puzzle. It takes you to the Tomb of Horrors, and then if you can get through the Tomb of Horrors, then you can leave. So the Labyrinth itself is completely arbitrary. It's a false front for this entire torturous existence that these people have. You can wander in the same direction for the rest of your life and still not find a way out. It's like the Lady of Pain. She'll send you to a labyrinth that's just a straight hallway, but that straight hallway could be 100 million miles long and you'd never come out alive. So Liner learns quite a bit about the nature of what's going on, and he's slowly kind of backing out. He doesn't want to mess with the Cenobites. They're not moving, they're not trying to attack him, but he doesn't want to provoke them. So he slowly backs out. He's still got the puzzle box, slowly backs out. Thanks for all the info, I'll talk to you later, bye. And he twists the puzzle box to make it unsolved, and the wall slams shut again, leaving them in their little netherworld and him back in the labyrinth. And very suddenly, Liner wakes up to Zalus angrily shaking his shoulder. Hey, you were on watch. What the hell are you doing? Give me that puzzle box. You're not supposed to be messing with it. So Liner thought for a few moments that it was a dream, but no, it was far too specific. He fell into a trance while he was playing with the puzzle box, perhaps his astral form, perhaps his soul left the labyrinth for a moment and was shown the underbelly, the nastiness of what is actually going on. Bellosi's not giving them any chance. The labyrinth doesn't mean anything. It's these puzzle boxes. And there's going to be more than one, because otherwise, one person out of 100 makes it to the Tomb of Horrors. That's not as entertaining, is it? So there's going to be others out there. Now, they return to the labyrinth, they rest for a while, and who should show up again but Bellosi, the guy who's running the labyrinth. And he goes, "Where did you guys go? I didn't see you. I didn't see where you went there for a while. I took my eyes off the scrying crystals that the audience was watching, and I lost track of you." And they tell him about the puzzle box, but only in like light details, because they're not sure if this is all a part of his plan or if he doesn't know. He doesn't know how much they know, and they don't want to share how much they know. So only in light detail. So Bellosi says, "Well, okay, how about this? You vanished under my radar for a while, and I don't really like that, even though I've got scrying crystals everywhere. They're not recording devices. They're just to show the audience what's going on. So why don't I give you these scrying crystal necklaces, so no matter where you go, we can keep an eye on you for the entertainment of the masses. And in return, I will give you an icebox of holding." And he snaps his fingers, and this great bulging rectangular box shape appears next to him, and it's got straps on it like a backpack. And he throws it open, and food just tumbles out, and he shuts it again. And he goes, "Food and cold water pretty much infinitely, as long as I can keep my eyes on you." And they immediately agree, yes, we have been scrounging for food for days, because, there's an indiscriminate amount of time between when they run into some people, when they run into some traps, when they went to the Tomb of Horrors and came back. They've been in here for a week, maybe more, and they're starting to grow weak from hunger. And they go, "Yes, infinite food, yes, please." And he goes, "Don't go showing this off to too many people, because, once somebody finds out that you're carrying an infinite food supply, you're going to have a big target on your back." And they go, "Yeah, but it is worth the trade-off." So he gives each of them a necklace, which is twofold as a punishment, if you think about it. Number one, he can always see where they are. Number two, these magic necklaces mean that they can't wear any other magic necklaces. So I don't think they realized that at the time. So he goes, if you take them off, any one of you, then the infinite icebox of holding goes bye-bye. So that's it. And it's not really something a DM should ever do, is force close a magic item slot. You always have to wear this helmet, so you can't wear any other magic helmets. Haha. I did that with necklaces for 4 people. Probably shouldn't have done that. But that was the goal that he laid down, and they took it eagerly. So they feasted for a while, gaining their strength back, stuffing their bellies, and resting for a while, not leaving the room they were in. There was nothing really super dangerous in this room. And as an afterthought, while they're eating all their food, Bellosi comes back with a halfling rogue who is named Dalton. Dalton replaces Vince, who replaced Soon Dead, and on down the chain. Same guy, third character sheet. I was like, you need to stop dying, man. You're gonna, the battle group is shrinking. We started with 100 people. We lost at least 10 of them on day 1. So eventually there's going to be nobody left in the labyrinth except for you guys, and I'm not going to be able to shoehorn you into this group anymore. He goes, "Well, stop killing me in one hit." I say, "Stop being stupid." and we argue some more, because of course we do. When you've got a player's perspective versus the DM's perspective of one-shot kills and what's fair and what isn't, that's an argument for another day. A stab through the heart is a stab through the heart, even if you've got 90 hit points, or if you've got a gargoyle on the other side of a door that has a window and you don't look through the window, then it's your own damn fault if you open the door first. And just on and on through that argument. I won't get into it. But Dalton, who is a halfling rogue, replaces Vince. And Bela Lugosi says that for the entertainment of the masses, after like a week or whatever, that the Labyrinth show or whatever, it's not really a television show, it's medieval times, the Labyrinth event begins. There are arena battles between prisoners, and they go, why would we want to go after other prisoners? You know, we're killing each other as it is. And they go, yeah, but now you'll get an arena. And if you kill the other person, not only do you get all of their stuff, but you get fantastic prizes that will help you survive the all the challenges that the Labyrinth has to offer. And they go, oh, okay. And they kind of look at each other and they go, all right, well, who's our opponent? Well, you don't get to know until you get out into the arena. You know, think on the fly. You'll be great. Don't worry. And he snaps his fingers and he disappears. And in his place, on the wall behind him, appears a door. And the door goes out into an arena. And they go, okay, so they already rested, they already ate, they got a new party member again. And they go, okay, we're going to try for this. And they open the door, and of course it's this big Roman Colosseum-style giant, like, football field. This is not a part of the Labyrinth. This must be a dimension door style of place. And they step out, and standing near the center is a man in black robes with, like, duffel bags around him. And, you know, he must have walked out with, like, a duffel bag in each hand and just, like, dropped them next to him and unzipped them and was just kind of waiting for his opponents. And I go, he's a pale and swarthy thing with a bald head and tattoos all over him. And I go, it's just him by himself? You know, there's 4 of us and there's 1 of him. Ha! I kind of pity the fool. And they close the door behind them and, of course, it disappears so they can't run. And they go, you know, let the arena match begin, go! And the necromancer, this guy was a necromancer. And he waves his hands over the duffel bags and, you know, a big mountain of bones comes piling out. And they go, oh, that's what happened to his party. He killed them, took their stuff, and raised them up as skeletons. And just as Zalus was saying that, 6 skeletons form up from out of the duffel bags, just complete, you know, rib cages, skulls, and each of them has a weapon in their hands. And like, oh, now it's fucking 7 on 4. And we're like, you know, Ming, this confirms another 6 deaths. So he's tallying off the 100-man battle group. We're like in the lower 70s by now, just by the deaths that he's seen. There's probably more because the tidy monster's out there cleaning up bodies that they haven't seen. So a good third or a quarter or so of the battle group is already dead, and they're 7 days in. They're not going to last until spring. This isn't going to happen that way. So 6 skeletons and a necromancer versus, you know, a monk, a cleric dragon, a rogue, and a wizard. And I'm like, all right, roll initiative. Who wins the initiative? Zalus, because, you know, he's a wizard and he wants to go first. I don't know. I think he took improved initiative just so he could go first, because if all your friends run into melee with something, throwing a fireball if you're the last in the initiative roll is not a good idea, because fireballs explode and fire is not going to discriminate between friend and foe. So wizards that can go first are actually a good idea. And Zalus rolls the initiative. He goes first, and he goes, all right, Phantasmal Killer! And the necromancer rolls his resist and fails and drops dead. And so they come out here, 6 skeletons, necromancer, roar, boss fight, Phantasmal Killer, oh, my heart, blah. And the necromancer falls over dead, and then the skeletons, who have nobody controlling them anymore, fall to pieces, and that is the end of that arena fight. The crowd fucking hates it. Boo, boo, you killed him instantly, boo. They start throwing shit out onto the arena floor. they're throwing rotten tomatoes and chairs and all kinds of garbage. They can't reach him because he's way too far in, but the crowd fucking hates him. It's like, Zalus, you insta-killed something that should have been a boss fight. They fucking hate your guts. So they immediately go over to loot the necromancer, who, of course, has a spell book. So Zalus immediately incorporates all this necromancer's magic, and he's got 6 skeletons to play with now. And being whatever level that he is, he can animate all of them, or he can throw them all in a bag of holding and have them as like ammunition to raise skeletons one at a time. Because skeletons, if I remember, they're based on like hit dice. However many, like, I won't even try. It's been 8 years. I don't remember how necromancy works. But skeletons don't have a lot of health. They have health based on hit dice and your stats and your strength as a magic user and a bunch of other things. They're not especially powerful. You can throw like a little bit of health into a bunch of them, or you can throw all of your hit dice and all of your magic into one and basically have an extra party member. So he decides he's going to resurrect one skeleton to like watch his back and be his shield if something goes down. And he stuffs the other 5 like sets of skeleton parts into a bag of holding that they'd found. So now he's a full-blown fucking necromancer. They steal the guy's robe. Zalus puts it on. He's got like a decanter of endless water. Meng takes that because he can brace himself and use it as a geyser, as like a fire hose if they run into any like fire traps or anything, to just put it out. He drops 6 or 7 people's worth of magic items because he killed his whole party and raised them as skeleton minions. So yeah, he kept all their shit and put it on himself. So he was a treasure trove of new items. Necromancer's robes, Necromancer's book, decanter of endless water, a staff, magic rings, magic belt, magic helmet, golden magic slingshot, all that kind of stuff. So they get lots of new toys from this guy, and Zalus just killed him in one shot. Far be it from me for, to scold a player for being too damn clever, but, it's a boss fight. Instantly killing the guy was not cool. So the crowd is booing, they're throwing shit, a door appears to one side. They also get a fate coin. Now, fate coins were something that I just made up for this campaign because they're finding money and gold and gems and they have nothing to spend it on because they're stuck in the labyrinth. So I introduced a new item called fate coins, and on one side is a picture of a marketplace cart, and on the other side was a picture of Bellosi's face. So you could either flip it and summon like an item shop, I guess, and flip it the other way, and you could summon Bellosi and talk to him for a short time, whether it was to ask him questions or whatever it happened to be, to interact with the host of the show, or the event. And I said, be careful with those because they are desperately finite, and they look at each other where they go, well, we've got all these magic items and all this gold and gems and stuff. It's like, we should probably try to buy stuff. So we put it like cart side up and we flip it. And, this guy appears and he's immune to all damage because, of course, he is. And he's got this market cart and he goes like, what are you buying? And they can't buy like a scroll of teleport and get out of the labyrinth or anything like that, or a rod of wonder with a dimensional rip spell to get them out. So it's limited what they can buy, but they can buy like potions, magic items, spell scrolls, anything like that. That might help them in the labyrinth. So it allows them the ability to shop without like breaking the campaign open. Oh, they left the labyrinth to go shopping, then they came back. Why would they do that? No, they bring the shop to themselves, and they have like a limited array of things they can buy. So they buy a bunch of potions, they buy bed rolls, they buy rations, they buy like the basic commodities that they spent a week without. So They buy new underwear and socks and fucking boots for their feet and like a headband to keep their hair back. They buy soap and like a couple of buckets so they can, they've already got a decanter of endless water so they can bathe and not smell like ass and armpits everywhere they go. They buy, I think, like the soap of cleanliness, which is actually magic soap. It keeps you from being tracked by scent. So if there's like a pack of wolves somewhere in the labyrinth, they won't be able to track this party by scent because they've used the soap of cleanliness. Wee. So they buy a bunch of stuff, and this was basically done between sessions. Like they flipped the coin, they summoned the shop, and then we like adjourned for a while. They did a bunch of shopping to get their water and buckets and basic commodities for a while to make life a little easier in this pressing machine that was out to kill them. And let's see. They did find... I'm checking my notes, sorry. They did find another puzzle box on the necromancer. It was different from theirs, but similar enough that they knew it would probably take them to the same place. So it's like, you know what, we're going to hold off on that for now. We lost Vince and we almost lost Liner just in the front hallway of that place. And Liner had since told them about his dream that area was like the finish line of the labyrinth, and if they wanted to escape, they would have to go there on purpose and survive whatever bullshit was beyond that killer hallway that had almost killed them all before they even went through the front door. So they know it's there, they know what it is, but they don't want to go there because it almost killed them the first time. They go, why don't we wander the labyrinth, see if we can't find anything else of use or people that might join us, or if Bellosi will spill any more details. If the labyrinth truly is infinite, then there's a mechanism at work, because the idea of infinite space is bullshit. It's not mathematically possible. Even through like arcane and alchemy and all this stuff, and Zalus is grasping at straws because this setting is inside the labyrinth. They have no idea what magics are at work here, but Zalus doesn't believe that the labyrinth can be infinite. It's probably just spherical, or it's really close to infinite, or just big enough that you can't see the edges even when you're on them, or something like. He tries to justify the idea that the labyrinth can't be truly infinite. There has to be something else at work here. And they go, okay, I guess we just go wandering for a while. So they run into other adventurers and kill them and take their stuff. And they find another mimic and they pry it open and get all the gold within. They find another fate coin on absolute accident. They find a water fountain that restores all their health when they drink from it. They go through all these completely arbitrary rooms that, I had a list of like 30 rooms, and I would refresh it every week in case they just decided to go wandering. Because they've got their goal in front of them. It's inside the puzzle box. That's where the finish line is. But if they want to wander the labyrinth, I was ready with basically a random dungeon generator, which is a dirty word for me to say because I hate that in video games, in D&D, in anything. A random dungeon generator. It's not unethical, but it makes me feel dirty to use it because it means that the dungeon doesn't mean anything. But that was the nature of the labyrinth. It was there to be a distraction from the puzzle boxes, which was how you got out. So there could be a puzzle in this room and an acid pool in this room and a monster in that room. And it was there to look important, but it wasn't. So they go through a few rooms until they come across a circular room with a dais in the middle. And they go, oh, this looks important. And I was getting ready to throw a boss fight at them. Again, just because they'd gone through X number of rooms. They needed a big monster. So Bellosi earlier had told them to beware because the labyrinth actually has permanent denizens in it. People that have been wandering for a very long time who either choose not to escape or don't know how but haven't been killed yet. So people that are not one of the original 100, but they've been here so long they may as well be part of the labyrinth themselves. And he goes, beware, there is a minotaur in the labyrinth. And they go, ah, minotaur in the labyrinth, like the Greek legend. And I go, yeah, pretty much. And minotaurs are like, I think, third level monsters in D&D. I guess it depends on what system you're playing, but I think the level adjustment for being a minotaur is like 3 in D&D. But they wander into this circular room and they find a minotaur. And this wasn't any normal, like, regular old, like, monstrous minotaur. This guy had 5 levels of fighter and a giant 2-handed sword and, like, a bandolier of daggers and, like, skulls hanging from his fucking loincloth. And when they came in, they discovered that he was busy on top of that dais because he was raping a woman in stocks. And they hear this as they go in, and they come across this horrible scene. It's like the final boss battle from Dante's Inferno, where like the dick is just flopping around during this whole 20-minute boss fight. Ugh. It's quite the distraction. But he doesn't see them right away because he's busy. And Dalton decides he's going to go and steal the guy's sword because it's bigger than he is. And, you know, he probably just, like, jabbed it into the ground next to him. Why was this woman in stocks? And why was she in the center of a room like this? We don't know. And they get a few moments to kind of lean and see who it is. It's Heidi. How did she get into those stocks? We don't know. But Taurus, this minotaur, I called him Taurus because that was just a neat name. Taurus caught her there and took full advantage because there's not a lot of women in the labyrinth, and, well, he's been there for some time, so he can take what he can get. So Dalton sneaks up to try and, like, pull his sword out of the stone floor. He is not strong enough, and Taurus notices him and basically turns, pulls out, and, like, backhands Dalton across the room, and the fight is on. I go, roll initiative. And before they start attacking, Ming goes, I bet he knows more about the labyrinth than we do. Let's capture him. And I go, oh, God, shit. I didn't even think of that. You know, because somebody who's been in the labyrinth long enough probably knows all about its inner workings, right? Oh, yeah. They decided from turn 1, we can't kill him. We have to catch him alive. So this boss fight became a Pokemon battle. So, let's see. They immediately surround him after a while. Like I said, he was a minotaur with like 5 levels of fighter and a big sword, but he pulls his sword up. He's got it in 2 hands. He's like, oh, it's you guys again. And they go, again? We've never met him. And so they rush forward to do battle with him, and they throw the lightning bolts, and they shoot the crossbows, and Ming's like trying to punch him, leave the big giant bruises on his giant chest. And, you know, Taurus isn't even really trying. He's just like, boom, headbutting people. And, like, minotaurs have the charge and gore, so he just, like, grabs Zalus around the middle, charges into the far wall, and, like, pancakes him there, and then throws him to one side, and, like, and they chase him back and forth. But, you know, you don't want to stand in front of a charging minotaur, even if he's got, you know, weapon or no weapon. Those horns hurt because they're real and they can cut glass. Now, but finally, Ming lands the stunning fist, and he rolls, and he gets the maximum number of rounds. And Ming goes, okay, I get into my bag, and I pull my Masterwork Manticles. And I go, Masterwork Manticles? And he goes, yeah, when we went shopping, I bought Masterwork Manticles and a Masterwork Padlock. And I throw them on his wrist, and I click the padlock shut. And I go, okay. And they kind of like surround him and kick him to death. And they get a lot of headbutts in return. But, Liner, being the cleric, does his very best. He goes, okay, I'm going to heal your wounds, Mr. Minotaur, and then you need to talk to us. So we've got you in chains, and, you've got this giant guy in chains. He can still, gore you with his horns, but he's pretty busted up. So he agrees to be healed if he's just got to exchange words with these assholes. Doesn't mean he's going to stay in chains for very long. He's already tugging on them because he's really strong. He's a minotaur. But they find out that Heidi, and they turn and look, and she's gone. And he goes, why were you, raping that woman in stocks? Look again. Oh, and then it's just empty stocks. He goes, now and then Heidi manifests into a person, and I get to pounce on her. And he goes, you're sick. And he goes, you're in here for a death sentence. Pot meets kettle. And he goes, I've been in here for a very long time. A moral compass really doesn't help in here. And they go, can you tell us anything? What is going on? And they, sorry, I'm checking my notes. They learn that Heidi was Bellosi's wife when she was alive. That she is no longer with us because Taurus was hired to kill her. And they go, why? And he goes, you'll learn more about that later. But for now, no. Heidi was Bellosi's wife, and once I killed her, he built the Labyrinth using her consciousness and the consciousness of what you call the tidy monster. And they look at each other and goes, it's a mind trap? And he goes, no. The Labyrinth is infinite, so long as Heidi and the Tidy Monster and a couple of other things are here holding the corners of the map. So you might say, say you've got a scroll that's all curled up and crunched up, and you use 4 stones on the corners to hold it open. Heidi and the Tidy Monster are holding 2 of those corners. And so, if all 4 corners were to be destroyed or stopped or sent away or sealed away, the Labyrinth would collapse. It would no longer be infinite. It's just the arcane math that is at work. It's like a paradox machine. It makes the impossible possible. So, and he goes, well, and Ming is at the front row of this questioning, and he goes, well, how do you know us? It's as soon as we stepped in, we said it's you guys again. And Taurus goes, the Labyrinth is infinite, and so is the time within it. He's feeling real chatty all of a sudden because he claims to already know these people. And they go, what do you mean? And he goes, the Labyrinth has no borders. It also has no end. Your memories don't mean anything. And he goes, I have been here for so long. You have no idea. If I counted the days, I would go mad. I have killed you, Ming, so many times. You have no idea, but you always come back. You know why? Because when the Labyrinth is done, it only just restarts itself. I see the same people with the same gear, with the same attitudes, asking the same questions over and over and over. You have any idea how many times we've had this conversation? And he turns away for a moment to kind of readjust his flaps so that the big long minotaur dong isn't hanging out while they're talking. And he goes, the Labyrinth is a cycle. It's an infinite cycle. It's a time loop. It's an infinite space. It's a paradox. And the party kind of leans back. They're just kind of taking this in that there's no getting out, and it doesn't matter if they die because it'll just start all over again. This is a hellish landscape that Bellosi built to punish Taurus for killing Heidi, but what the hell's the difference if they're just going to feed death row inmates in every time, and every time they die, they get mixed back around and thrown back in those cells to start all over again. So I think that is where we will stop for today. Learning the true nature of the labyrinth and learning that there is a finish line were pretty big. They decided to keep Taurus with them, if only because he was a wellspring of information, because he killed Heidi, so he was the only one to remember all of these time loops to torture him further. So Heidi is not real. She is imbued into the labyrinth, as is the tidy monster, whoever that was. And in order to stop this time loop, to stop the labyrinth from being infinite, they are going to have to hunt down and kill Heidi, the tidy monster, and 2 other entities that they have not even met yet. So that is all for today. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I will see you guys on the next D&D stories. Keep gaming. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really love telling D&D stories, and I also really love eating food. So if you'd like to toss a couple of gold pieces into this humble bard's hat, be sure to check out my Patreon. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit the like button as well. And if you'd like access to maps, character art, and channel updates too, check out the D&D Stories Facebook. Keep gaming!